Hey everyone, I am the TheChosenOneLegend here, as always joined by my co-host,
Hi, I'm Kai, also known as Fascurreyn.
and welcome back to the BunchaJokahs podcast, where we talk different bits of Nintendo and gaming news from the past month. And it's been a quiet one, but how's your November been, Kai? You been doing alright?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been chilling. Everything's been fine. As we sort of touched on in the Tears of the Kingdom videos, I am going for 100%, so that has been keeping me busy.
I can
But yeah, that's
imagine.
been good. There's worse things to be busy with. Let's put it that way. I personally quite enjoy Korok hunting. More on that later.
That is very true. I need to get back to some Tears of the Kingdom side quests sometime, but I'm going through the backlog currently. But we will be getting to that later. Of course, we have our usual news topics and then what we've been playing, and there will be timestamps in the description below. And although it has been a bit of a quieter month, there's been some surprisingly big stories coming out, ones we were not expecting.
Mm.
So let's get started with the first segment of the podcast. Can't have a podcast without news, baby, where we go over selected highlights from the month that we think we have stuff to talk about. And we probably have a few things to say about the fact that a Legend of Zelda live-action movie has been confirmed, working with Sony, of all companies, funnily enough. That's people have wanted this, but sure, that's happening now, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I remember we talked about it, when the Mario movie was getting trailers and that sort of thing a little while back.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
saying we could definitely see this happening. It'd be cool. I think we did say that live action would probably be the way to go for Zelda,
Hmm.
which I still think is cool. I think that, as with all video game adaptation movies, there is the potential for it to flop entirely. But as we've seen in recent years with all a couple of the newer ones, there's actually potential for it to be really, really good, especially if Nintendo, intervenes in the way that they do to make sure it stays on track. Like, I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
potential here, so I'm looking forward to it.
I agree, and I know there's been some concern about the fact that the one of the producers on it, as well as Miyamoto, is a big guy at Sony who's done all the Spider-Man stuff, and he's done stuff like Morbius, which I mean,
That
I
just
can
means it's going
understand
to
the
be really good.
yeah, it's gonna make $1 more billion at the box office, so we're sold really.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's the thing is he's also produced things, like Spider-Verse and the recent MCU Spider-Man films that people love. And I think the main lesson here is that as long as he's kept, got the right people with him, the film can still be good. And I trust, given Mario and how true to the source material that film was, I trust that Zelda's going to be the same. I am no longer worried about them doing some weird thing like the original Mario Bros. Live action movie or, God forbid. I feel like it's in safe hands to, even if it's not going to be a masterpiece of a movie, at the very least, I feel like they're going to get, the world of Hyrule and Zelda right. I feel pretty secure in that, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that'll be good. I mean, the cast is one of the biggest questions alongside what you think
Yes.
they'll actually do for the plot. So there is plenty of theory we could go into with that. Ultimately, when we
Mm.
do get like a proper trailer, we'll probably do a whole video on it dedicated, but there's nothing stopping us from sharing initial theories now, I suppose.
Yeah, it's hard to say what it could be about in general. Is it going to be an original movie? Do they adapt, Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess or a specific game? I feel like given Mario, I sort of expect something original, and then maybe they throw in, your iconic things you expect from the series. Hey, he gets Epona, he gets the green tunic, of course Ganondorf's there. I doubt they're gonna throw too big a curveball. But do you have any specific ideas or predictions for the movie, Kai?
I think overall, I have the same idea as you of like there's a ton of
Hmm.
different things that are iconic and happen across all the series. The Triforce will appear. You'll have Link, Zelda, Ganon. Probably, yeah, you will have Ganon. Let's be real.
Yes.
You'll have the Master Sword and Epona and all of that. It will all appear. The question is, how exactly are they going to do it? I do think it's going to be an original story. So it should be
Yeah.
interesting. I don't think I have a specific idea in mind of how it works. Probably just quite formulaic of like, I don't know, Link starts the game as a rookie knight or something, and then Ganon takes over Hyrule, and Zelda gets captured, and then
Hmm.
Link's like, oh, I need to get the Triforce, and then he gets the Triforce in the middle of the movie, and then That's basically it. I don't know. He wins.
That being said, you mentioned things like Zelda being captured. We do have, the Mario movie sort of did a bit of a twist on Peach and gave her a bit more of an active role.
That's
and I
true.
wonder. I mean, I feel she still did get kidnapped at one point in the movie, so it's not going too far different here. But I could see them taking more of like a bit of a Breath of the Wild influence on Zelda and making her quite going down like the tech route and sort of the science aspect of her and knowledge kind of. I mean, she's Triforce of Wisdom,
I think all of that. I don't know. They could go different ways with different incarnations. Personally, I'm saying get that the Spirit Tracks Zelda in. That one's pretty cool. She's just like a ghost and sassy, and it's like that's pretty neat. I mean, I don't know. It's the question of, do they do 2 Nintendo movies in a row, have like the one main leading female character have sassy personality? Do they have Zelda be its own thing? I don't know. There's so many different Zeldas. They could go for quite a few different approaches. So I'm kind of cool with whatever. I'm happy to see it play out.
Yeah, very true. And I'm not even going to go down the realm of fan casting yet. I think they'll probably cast original if I had to guess. But then again, Chris Pratt's Mario, so you never know. But
yeah, they could go either direction with that. All I want is for celebrity stuff is I think Dwayne Johnson has to be a Goron. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's I know it's in his contract to always be like main character, main hero, whatever. So maybe he won't do it, but I think it'd be fun.
He's done it before. He was like the sidekick guy in Moana and that, he might go out of his way a bit. Also, of course, Danny DeVito as Tingle is the ultimate fan cast. But otherwise, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, I remember back in the day, like, did you watch like the IGN Fate April Fool's Day Zelda trailer back in the day? Have you seen that? It's not good. It's not good. But like, watching that years ago, like I was like, oh, I want a live action Zelda, and now I used to find like really crappy fan made ones and that, but it's happening.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that we're actually getting something. It's always been, even like 5 years ago, there were like rumours of a Netflix series. It's always been about, but to have actual confirmation is nice. And given the recent trend of actually good video game adaptations, The Last of Us, Detective Pikachu, Sonic, I'm optimistic, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very exciting time with all of that, getting to have, like, video game movies be good and also come out, like, for some of our favourite series, no less. It's, it's a really good sign. So, yeah, I just pray that we get a good trailer soon and, just again, please have it be good. Like, I think there's so much potential with a Zelda movie. I could already imagine the fighting choreography.
Yes,
I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be really, really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they draw from exactly.
And then one step closer to Xenoblade live action, right, Kai?
That's a whole different discussion.
Want that.
No, I don't either. Xenoblade is already like so much story. Making it an adaptation wouldn't solve anything.
No, agreed. But
you just watch the cutscenes on YouTube. That's like 3 movies for one game.
Literally. There's no way they could cut that down even to a like full-on anime series. Even that would be a stretch.
Not a chance.
But anyway, on to our next topic here. We're of course in Game Awards season, and as it's approaching, it will be very soon after this, like a week after this video goes up even. But we've got our nominees for our categories, and I'll just go for like the big one. The Game of the Year nominees this year are Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Wonder, and Alan Wake 2. Interesting set. It's nice to see Tears of the Kingdom and Mario get there even. I wasn't sure it would do. But what do you think of these nominations, Kai?
Well, I never hold the Game Awards in particularly high regard, like many others.
Oh, it's meaningless.
Yeah, it's absolutely like, yes, it's arbitrary, but I don't know. I've got a bit of a gripe with all of the Game Awards stuff this year, that it feels like they basically put Zelda and Mario into random categories to pad them out. I think that there were some categories they should have been in where they weren't, and then other categories where they appeared for no real reason when they didn't really deserve the spot. Like, don't get me wrong, Tears of the Kingdom has some really good songs, but I wouldn't have put it in for Best Soundtrack of the Year, especially over things like Octopath 2, which got 0 nominations, which I'm very salty about. I'm so salty. Anyway, Yeah, so I think Mario Wonder was basically put in there because it's like, oh, new Wonder. And Tears of the Kingdom, though it deserves it, was probably also just put in there because big Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the best
Yeah.
thing about getting this, getting the Game of the Year nominees is always the Game of the Year orchestra. Like, that's the main thing. Like,
Oh,
yes, songs
absolutely.
from all of these are going to be great. That's what I'm most hyped for, because the awards themselves mean jack shit. So,
Yeah, yeah. So that's going to be the best part. To be
yeah.
honest, Alan Wake 2, I don't know what the Alan Wake series is.
No,
We
me,
might have had this conversation before on podcast. I actually don't know. I do
I
not
think
know
we
what
had
that
it,
series is.
yeah, I think we've discussed it, like, off air, no, off recording, but, it's
Right.
like some sort of, like, horror thriller series, I think, in a sense. Maybe, like, psychological.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't know much about it because it seems like Alan Wake 1 was a while ago, and even then, some people say it hasn't aged that well in that. And then 2 came out and suddenly getting all these nominations. I was like, oh, I thought maybe like Street Fighter 6 would be up there or something, but no,
Hmm.
it's Alan Wake 2's been nominated for like half the categories as Game Awards tends to do. It's mostly the same things in the same. It's
It picks its
basically the
favourite
same
six
six
games
games.
and puts them in every category.
Yes,
Like I said, it just pads out anything where they don't know what to do.
pretty
But yeah,
much.
overall, it's looking to me like Baldur's Gate 3 is going to run away with it.
I think so. And to be
Yeah.
fair, like from both what I've heard from friends and also the fact it like blew up out of nowhere and it was everywhere, like it's probably well deserved. That does look like a good game. But
Hmm.
that I would agree with you. That's probably going to take away Game of the Year this year. But there's some other stuff in other categories. Like I can't really remember much, but like Jedi Survivor got like one or two. I know Pikmin 4 got nominated in like Family Game, which is neat. So
Yeah.
it yeah, there's some other games getting there. To be honest, like Mario Wonder is a great game. I personally wouldn't put it quite Game of the Year tier, but I think it's Mario, so they're going to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll definitely talk back next month about any, of course, any the results of Game of the Year, and of course any announcements and world premieres that come out of it. But
I can't wait.
otherwise,
Oh, I can't
it's
wait.
gonna be
I
something.
think we replace
Actually,
every category of the stream with, or not the stream, sorry, the podcast, with world premiere. We just put that cutaway in every time.
but now that you mention it, I feel like I heard somewhere that they're actually getting rid of the world premiere titles from this year's Game Awards.
What?
And if that's
That's
the
the
case,
best part.
we'll have to make up for it by putting them in ours. So that is also
Okay.
a thing. We will be talking about our own sort of Game of the Year in its own discussion in January, as well as some little bits and
Mhm.
some shorts leading up to that in December. So do stay tuned for our own opinions on our favourite games and that, which are that's the only opinion that really matters on mine and Kai's, of course. So
Yeah.
what can I say?
Keep an eye on the
But
shorts
yeah,
page because that's where we'll have some info.
absolutely, it's all prepared. We're waiting on Sam. Get back to work. We'll give you your Kit Kats. But well, maybe we'll give you your Kit Kats. But do you have any other thoughts on the Game Awards in general before we move on, Kai?
I do want to add, I've been seeing some controversy spark about how the game Dave the Diver, which for the record I know basically nothing about,
Mm,
people
yeah.
have been pointing out, hang on, that's in the indie game category, but it's not by an indie company. Um,
But Kai,
and
it's got pixel art style. It must be indie.
yeah, well, that's sort of the idea it's giving is that like it was
Yeah.
literally put there because it has pixel graphics and just the style of game it is makes it that. When in fact it is not an indie game. And then when Jeff was asked about it, he was like, "I think there are different interpretations of an indie game," and like,
Hmm.
not really. Not really. Like that's not how it works. Is Voice of Cards an indie game because it was made by a small team at Square Enix? No, no. Like
Yeah.
you sort of get the meaning of indie game has been skewed in this instance, where it's like you say, things with pixels generally are perceived as being indie games. That although there's a lot of overlap, that isn't the sole decider. But who knows? We'll see if it
Yeah.
actually gets the win, which would spark even more controversy. So. We'll wait until the results for that one.
The thing that we can count on no matter what is that people are going to be angry on Twitter, and it's going to be funny for us. So that's
Yes,
the
and
real
that guy's
victory
going to
here.
show up from last year.
Oh,
The
God.
rabbi, whatever his name is,
Yeah. Well, we need Epic Flute Guy to return to do some Tears of the Kingdom music. That's what I'm hoping for. So
Yes, I miss him.
yes. absolutely. It's not going to be the same without Xenoblade 3 and Game of the Year Orchestra, but it'll still be damn good. But that's pretty much it for there. We haven't got much left. I will briefly mention that there was an Indie World presentation this month, which had some stuff. Was there anything that stood out to you, if you even remember what was in it, Kai?
I'll be real, I did watch the whole thing. I don't remember a single thing from it. It's actually gone out of my memory, because obviously this is recorded a couple weeks later at this point, so nothing immediately springs to mind, even if it impressed me at the time, because I think some things did, I just don't remember them.
Yeah, the only thing I want to mention is there was a Shantae game was at the start, which is like, I believe it was
the one.
Yeah, it was an older game that actually development didn't finish on or something, but now they're releasing it, so it's like a full-on Game Boy Advance style or Shantae game, which is really, or maybe Game Boy Color, but it's a really neat idea to like bring that back. Shantae's a series I want to try out, so that was cool. But it's one of those things where it's so hard to like judge indie games like from the brief glimpses you see them in the trailers.
It is.
Because of course so many of them are new concepts, you know, it's not like, hey, here's the new Zelda and that's what they're doing with it. It's nice when something surprises you, like A Short Hike was one in an indie presentation, which I love to death, but I know you played that as well. But it's all I remember otherwise is there were a heck of a lot of detective games in it for some reason, but it all looked consistent. Like everything looked interesting, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't bad necessarily. You know, it wasn't just farming sim deluxe or anything like that. So you know, it was good. No complaints really. The indie directs delivered on what indie directs are meant to do. There may have been no Smash reveal, but you know, sometimes we do get unlucky like that in our indie vlogs.
It's just that brief moment when Silksong is trending on Twitter again for like a day and then it dies back down again. Poor Silksong fans.
Silksong really is the Smash of indie directs, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, not even indie directs, like any direct, because it's big enough at this point. It's probably going to be announced in an actual direct, if I had to guess. But yeah, one day maybe. It was meant to come out this year. Actually, they confirmed it last year. And then went back on it again, so who knows what the heck's happening with that. But the only other thing I have for this month, it's brief, but it's just kind of funny, so I had to mention it. The Last of Us is getting a remaster again. The Last of Us 1. It's just funny.
Yeah, it's
joining
the ranks of GTA and Mario Kart of just like...
Yeah.
Well, not even necessarily, it's like... But they're not doing anything new.
It's funny, like, it gets some, like, criticism of why you remaking a game from last gen, and to give it some benefit of the doubt here, they are actually making it so it has you pay, like, $10 and you can upgrade it, your current copy, to have the new graphical improvements and that. Which is good, because I have to be real with you, if we got, like, a Switch 2 next year, and they released Tears of the Kingdom £10 upgrade, for more, I'd be like, yes, I'm sold. So I can't complain, you know, criticize too much. But I think the big thing that people dislike about this is it seems to be that's all that Naughty Dog do now is make Last of Us and remake Last of Us. So that's probably why the fans are particularly angry, is because it's stopping them from doing anything else. And it's like the second time they've remade it. But I just had to include it because it's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, I absolutely understand that. Like, it sounds very frustrating to be like, hey, I enjoyed these two games, they were really good, you know, big part of my gaming experience, but they won't stop releasing those two games over and over again. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it was great when Definitive Edition for Xenoblade released, but if they did it again now, I'd be like, what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, we'd buy it because we're suckers, but we'd still be like, what's the point? So you know.
I'd be mad while I'm buying it, yeah.
Yeah. But that's a thing. We're definitely in remake territory a lot nowadays, sometimes for the best, sometimes just because money. But that's pretty much it for the month. It's been pretty quiet, but let's move on to our next and final segment of the podcast, Games Time Baby, where we talk about any games that we've been playing. And Kai, why don't you start things off for us? What have you been playing?
So yeah, I've got a couple. I'll do two slightly smaller ones to start. I'll touch on the fact that I am still on Tears of the Kingdom. I talked a lot more about this in those discussions, of course, and I won't spoil anything here. But
Yeah.
I have beaten the game, and I am on the 100% grind. I've got all the monster medals. I'm currently getting all the Koroks. I'm about a third of the way through, pretty much.
Nice.
And yeah, it's just really fun. Like, I did 100% Breath of the Wild. I think 3 years after it released. Yeah, 3 years. And that was a fun experience. So
Did
doing
you
this
talk about it
first
on the
time.
podcast even? You might have done.
No, that was I think that was just before we started the
Oh, that
podcast. It
might have
was
been,
like a
yeah.
couple months before, a couple weeks before, pretty close.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, but I thought I'll 100% it. Why not? Rather than
Yeah.
doing a whole nother playthrough and doing all the same stuff, because I basically would do all the same stuff. And yeah, it's been a good time. Been enjoying it. The Koroks. It's interesting how many sort of new puzzles they have that I literally did not realize until this point in the game. For example, I will give this one because I don't think it's a spoiler. Have you ever noticed any like red arrows around the world?
Not off the top of my head. It's been a while since I played, granted.
Okay, yeah, one of the Korok puzzles is there's like a couple of red arrows that just point to an invisible spot where a Korok is hiding.
Oh! So they're these ones where it's like two arrows and you have to like find the middle point between the two of them. Is that the ones
Pretty
you mean?
much, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I have to. Yes, I remember those now.
Yeah, I didn't realise
Yeah.
that until 210 hours into the game, pretty much. Where I was just like, what are these arrows about? Where are they even pointing? They're all in different directions. Googled it, feel like an idiot. But it's cool just like how many cool things I'm still finding out and trying with the game. For
Yeah.
example, I only realised the other day that the ancient tip actually works like the ancient arrows used to.
Oh, yeah.
They don't just do a lot of damage. I also only just found out that using a Lizalfos tail, like fusing it, will make it into the weapon into a whip.
Oh, really? Huh.
Just yeah, it makes it into a really cool whip. If it's got the element on it, then it does do the elemental attack too. It's very cool. I learned about that one from the news channel on the Switch.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, pretty neat stuff, and not really much else to touch on there. I'll probably bring it back up again in a couple of months once I've fully done everything, but I will say that 100% in the game has been a lot of fun, don't knock it. Obviously, when you've got a backlog, prioritise the backlog, but, I feel like this is always a good game that you could come back to if you just want a little bit of time to do something.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, the other one I'll talk about, because I've got more afterwards, is I have started Pikmin 4. Literally picked it up like 3 days ago, I think, something like that. So I'm very early days, and I'm not going to give my full thoughts. I'm just going to give the first couple. I'm in the second area, the second proper area.
Right. Yeah.
And I will say it's far exceeded my expectations. I remember playing the demo on stream, and I wasn't really all over it, despite looking forward to the game for like a decade. I think I was like a bit grumpy that day because I was tired from work, and admittedly, I still hold true now that like I don't think the tutorial stuff in Pikmin 4 is particularly fluent for experienced players. Like it's just a lot of sudden pauses, a lot of tutorials, even more than the other games.
Oh, I didn't like the demo either. It turned me off it, so...
Yeah, the demo did turn me off it, but I decided, well, I've heard only good things, so I am going to pick it up regardless, and that's what I did. And I will say, once you get past all the tutorial stuff, the game's, like, really fun. Who would have thought, It's honestly been a great time so far. The difficulty is very clearly much more than Pikmin 3. Pikmin 3 is a cakewalk. This game poses serious challenge very early on. It's just a lot of fun, like simple as that. I like the gameplay cycle more than I thought I would, so I will give more thoughts later down the line, but for now, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pick up the game myself, but I've mentioned to you, I watched Masay and Ella play it on her YouTube channel, and she beat the game, and so I've seen it all, and it's surprising just how much of it there is. Like, watching her play it made me kind of want to pick it up myself one day even, and someone who's never been able to really get into Pikmin, Like, it generally looks like a fantastic game. So I'm definitely, we'll be interested to see your full thoughts on it once you've beaten it, probably next month, I assume. But
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
see.
it definitely looks like a really, it's much more interesting than the demo let on, I think. So if you played the demo and weren't sold, give it another chance. You know, it looks like it's actually quite good. But
Yeah.
I guess I'll go on to my game then here for because I've only got one to talk about this month, and I teased it at the end of last month. I started the Danganronpa series, which is
Ooh.
that's something. Only the first one. I've bought the next two, and now will be for another day when I'm feeling up for some despair. But it's like surprise, surprise for how well applauded it is. It's good. Like it's really good. It because I sort of got into sort of the visual novels with Ace Attorney, so that was my start, and I've sort of wanted to sort of try some others, so I knew this would be a different experience, but I was impressed by quite how different it felt overall. Particularly when it comes to like the trials, I'd say, because the investigation is pretty much one-to-one with Ace Attorney almost. It's very similar. It's, you know, you go pick up information and then you'll use it later. But the way that the trials have like sort of the bullet system where you actually have to pick out the right statements and fire at the gun on it. There's like a hangman, there's a rhythm mini game in there. It really keeps you on your toes, and it's stressful. Like compared to Ace Attorney, where you can take your time. It's fair as well because you actually have quite a lot of time on the conversations before you can interject. Like you can take your time really, but it still feels stressful and invested, which it should do because this isn't just a court case. This is, you know, one of your friends has killed someone and then is about to be killed themselves, and it's all depressing and despair, of course. So it's stress should come with the package, and it does. But it really gave it a completely different feel that, you know, I was invested in. I liked all the characters along the way. Monokuma's just terrifying, also hilarious, which is the best combination. The dialogue was very witty. The voice acting was all great when it had it. It was nice to see full voice acting in the trials. And I will have to admit, and Kai, you can back me up on this. I did a big brain some of the trials by the end of it. Once I got into the rhythm of it, managed to predict a few things and feel smarter than I do when I play Ace Attorney at the very least. So that's something.
Yeah, I mean, you impressed me with that a lot because obviously, I mean, the first game, like I've said, is the easiest one to predict things on. In terms of like, you know, the things aren't too outlandish yet. Look forward to the next one.
Oh god.
But yeah, like things are easy to predict, and people do predict most things here or there. But you basically got everything bang on from beginning to end. Like you got every situation that could happen. You predicted correctly. And like again, it's not unlikely for people to get these things right, but you did it so consistently. I was like, what's happening here? How's he done that?
Ace Attorney has trained me well. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I was sort of metaing the game and thinking like, what does it not expect me to think here, and trying to work it around that way. But I mean, it's a strap,
Yeah.
and granted, like I feel like it was a bit more straightforward compared to something like Ace Attorney. You know, Ace Attorney is a roller coaster where you can never predict it because they throw so many plot twists at you and, you know, random evidence you didn't have before and witnesses you didn't have before. You're never going to figure out the full package most of the time, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it was more of a sort of a straight line to the end. There were twists, and there were some really cool twists and things that happened I wasn't expecting. But it was never like oh god, that's what's happening. It was more like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, it sort of followed a bit more of a direct route to it, which I think is why ultimately I've so far enjoyed my time with Ace Attorney probably a little bit more, in the sense of that game is just such a roller coaster and it's such an up and down, whereas this is more of a mellow and depressing straight line to the end. But that's not a criticism of the game because it has a different tone that it nails perfectly well. Like to the end, like the whole story and the way it wraps up is really great as well. And I'm invested now, and I can't wait to try out the next one. So I say it's saying can't wait to try it out. Maybe feels like the wrong words to use given how depressing it all is. But it's weirdly fun despite the fact it's murder games. So yeah, it was a good time, and I'm definitely looking forward to trying out the rest and probably some other visual novels down the line. It's a good genre, so Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the game a lot because obviously that was like one of the first things I ever talked about on the podcast. It was right near the
Mm.
beginning. Um, and yeah, I think it's good that you're getting into it. It does. It's an interesting one. I think it sort of shares the space with, Ace Attorney on that genre of game quite nicely, where they do obviously very similar things, but they do fit different themes, different ideas, different stakes. And
Yeah.
ultimately, they do have different puzzles in them and trials and that sort of thing. So I think they both share that space very neatly, which is good because then it means you can play both and have a good experience overall, rather than being like, oh, I can't play one series because I've done the other or anything like that. Um,
Yeah.
so it's pretty positive overall, unlike the games. Um, yeah, they do only get crazier from here and more intense and convoluted and everything, and they are very much aware of the sort of nature of them of being very psychotic. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
I look
It
forward to
messes with
hearing
you
you
at
talk about
times.
the next game for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
very interesting series. Yeah, it's good that you're getting into it.
Yeah. It's impressive how they managed to make you depressed about people dying in such a short amount of time, relatively speaking. It's but that's the way it rolls, and yeah, I'm definitely. I'll be getting to the next one sooner or later. Of course, we've also got the next Ace Attorney trilogy releasing start of next year, so dear gods, there's a lot on the visual novel backlog, but I will be making my way through it eventually.
Very good.
But what about you, Kai? What's your next game to talk about?
I have one more to talk about, which, as we discussed, I thought I'd already done on stream. Turns out I hadn't. I just was misremembering. And yeah, recently on stream, I finished playing Inazuma 11 3 Team Ogre Attacks. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've talked about the previous two games on the podcast before because I streamed both of them, and now the trilogy is complete before the end of the year. It took me a lot more of the year than I thought it would, that's for sure. Um, but it's all complete now. The trilogy is done. I'm not doing the second trilogy, not anytime soon. Thank you very much. Um,
Oh.
but yeah, I think it was a fun one to stream because obviously I mean Inazuma 11 3 is one I have a lot of hours in. I don't even remember off the top of my head now, but it is minimum 100. And that's not even on the ultimate version of it. That's on Lightning Bolt. Um,
Hmm.
so I really enjoy the game and the series. Of course, it's a very good end to the series. A lot of people consider it to be the strongest one, maybe out of all Inazuma 11 games. A lot of people say it's the best out of all of them. In most respects. And obviously, I was very familiar with everything I was doing, but to you guys all watching, it was a new experience. And it just does more of the other games, but improves it a bit. The gameplay's slightly better in terms of the space they give you. They give you more moves and more characters and more matches and more storylines. But they do it in a very good way. It is visual novelty, but that's kind of what you sign up for. So yeah, overall, I mean, not many complaints. It was a good nostalgia trip for me, and that's really it.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun game to watch and a fun series to watch. Like it's ridiculous how seriously it takes itself and how crazy it gets for a game about football. But granted, I feel like 3 was probably maybe the most level-headed in those regards. We're not dealing with aliens this time around. It's like a World Cup, basically.
Oh yeah,
Which,
yeah. That's why people like it so much because it is like
yeah,
it's not overly crazy. It just is a World Cup with things happening in it. Yeah.
yeah, and there are quite a few neat characters in it. Of course, Deer is a living legend.
hmm
I'm obsessed now. Deer is my life. Deer is my soul. I don't know
Well,
why,
whenever people
but
say "Dear God," like it's actually just a
yeah,
misspelling.
that's a good point, actually. Yeah, it all makes sense now. It's been
Yeah.
prophesied since the early days. But I'm not kidding when I say that I am most likely picking up the new Inazuma 11 game solely because we found out that Deer is playable in it. So that is what matters to me most in life, and it's worth it. But yeah, it's because I remember seeing the series like way back in the day, not really knowing anything about it. But it's been fun to discover. Not to mention we've been watching the anime with
Yes.
friends in voice chat, and that's a roller coaster. Like it's I can't say that it's actually great, but it's very much an enjoyable watch nonetheless, especially with friends. So
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's literally just my childhood, so it's like that's
yeah.
that's the basis upon I enjoy it. Yeah, honestly though, like it is one of those things where I wouldn't say like go out of your way to pick it up and give it a go or anything, but if you are in a shop or something and you see it there on offer for a £5, which I don't think happens, I think it's still like 30 quid nowadays. But if you do happen to see it on offer, or you want to get a spare game to make a deal up or whatever, go for it. You know, just give it a go. It's not long. You know, when you're not voicing every character, it only takes like what 15 hours to beat, maybe. So it's a fun one. Yeah.
That's true, and as they say, just stand up if you love football. Inazuma 11. Mood.
Vibes.
But go watch the opening if you haven't seen it. Your life will be changed forever.
It's groovy.
That's about it. Obviously, we'll I've got some more things coming. I've started Kingdom Hearts 3, so there's your tease for next month. I'll be talking about that. But that's really it. So end of the podcast. Been pretty fun. And where else can people find you at in the meantime, Kai?
They can find me at twitch.tv/Fascurreyn, where I'm doing a bunch of random bits at the moment, having a good time. So feel free to join. And that's about it, really. I don't do anything on my YouTube at the moment, so...
Well, there will be links in the description below, as well as a link to our friend Samm, who's our graphic designer, and also, on occasion, streams Xenoblade 3, so go follow him and bug him to play more of it. He'll complete the game one day. Maybe before the next Xenoblade game is out. We'll see about that. But don't even mention when he's going to get to Tears of the Kingdom. But also, stay tuned to us BunchaJokahs here, either on YouTube or Spotify for audio-only versions of our podcast and other podcasting sites. We, of course, have our monthly discussions like this, and any other random discussions. Our Tears of the Kingdom breakdowns have been up recently. We're going to be having Game Award stuff upcoming, and reactions to directs, etc. So, yeah, please stay tuned for all of that. And until then, we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
See ya.